For that reason, giving up the exchange was forced. And so we reached two rooks versus a rook-bishop endgame. And white is in complete command of the game. Black's only hope is to somehow make one of these passers good. He starts with the check, king to b3, bishop to e7, rook to c8 check, king to b7, rook to e8. Bishop to h5, rook to d7 check, king c6, rook takes h7, pawn to f3, pawn to c4, and it was here that black resigned. Let's go ahead and put it into the engine and watch the engine play the engine to see one of many possible finales. And checkmate. That was at the Jogando 1963. Hello, Darcy. Next, we're going to go to the Chigorin Memorial Tournament in 1967 in the first round. So 4 years later, same event, same location, but 4 years later. This time, Zaitsev has black, playing Alexander Kotov. He was warm, so he took his coat off. Okay, Amir, thank you for stopping in and subbing. I'm feeling a little overworked myself. Feeling quite fatigued. I may just do the lesson and go to bed rather than my customary viewer challenges, especially since tomorrow is Arena Kings and I'd like to be well rested to play in it. Now, as in the previous game, I want to start out by telling you the numbers in this game. White had an accuracy of 94.07. Black had an accuracy of 96.20. White had a best move rate of 56.4%. Again, plus 90, plus 50, and you're golden. But Black's best move rate was 66. Dutch defense, Queen's Knight variation. Zaitsev with c6. Now, the most common move is g6, g3, bishop g7, bishop g2, transposing to the Leningrad variation. Both sides castle, queen to e8, pawn to d5, knight to a6, rook to b1, bishop d7. Hello, Richard Fleming. Good to see you. I was just saying to the others, I'm very fatigued tonight. I had 6 lessons. Feel very stressed right now. I'm going to show the lesson and go to bed early tonight. Try to recuperate, especially in view of tomorrow's Arena Kings tournament. Be sure we're good for that. Bishop g5 was played here. Big fish smoker following. Thank you. Now, the most popular move here, again, is g6. G3. By Rocker has followed. Queen c7. Bishop g2. Purple face subbing for the 6th consecutive month. Thank you, Purple Faye. So bishop to g2, e5, showing the most popular line here. That's d5, e5. Kingside castles, e4. Knight to e1, bishop to e7. In this game, however, bishop g5 was played. Queen's knight to d7, pawn to e3, pawn to e5, and pawn takes pawn. Thank you for 50 cheer bits, Purple Fang. Now, since that time, queen to c2 has been tried a couple of times as well. Pawn takes pawn in this game. Pawn takes pawn. Queen c2, pawn to e4. Now, I don't know, but defending and keeping these side-by-side pawns intact might be preferable, because these side-by-side pawns control all of this territory here. Greetings, Harfty. e4 it is. Knight to d4. Knight to e5 discovers a defense on the pawn. He queenside castles, and that threatens knight takes c7, which discovers an attack on the queen while threatening the undefended knight on e5. So queen to e7 avoids that. f3, striking at the center. Pawn takes pawn. Now, h6 might be more effective here, attacking the bishop. But pawn takes pawn it is. Pawn takes pawn. And queen f7's a mistake. g6 is necessary here. But he played queen to f7. And now f4 is played. Note, you don't want to play knight takes pawn, which allows g6. Bishop takes knight, e4. Queen takes bishop. Pawn takes bishop, and this is an equal-ish game. So instead, you play f4, attacking the knight. Knight takes pawn. And he should play bishop takes knight here, but instead he plays bishop takes the other knight here on c4. Queen takes bishop. Now bishop takes the king's knight. Pawn takes bishop. Knight takes pawn. And now rook d4 is available, which would pack a winning punch. The queen c5 gets out of that. Queen e4 check. King to f8. White is in control of the game until rook d8, invoking the appearance of Captain Blunderpants. That's right, ladles and jelly spoons. His best option was knight to d4, maintaining a small advantage. But here, bishop takes knight can now be played because it's under super attack. You say, no, doesn't that give away the rook? Well, that is what he played, but we don't have to take the rook. We can play queen e8 check, king g7, and now rook takes. So for that reason, moving the knight to safety was necessary. Queen e8 check, king g7, rook takes rook, king h6, rook to e1, bishop g7. Now you might be thinking there, he'll get his rook back, the queen will have to move. Not so fast, Lee Corso. Queen takes rook. Bishop takes queen. Rook takes bishop. And so we have two rooks and a knight against a queen and a bishop. Pawn to b5. Pawn to a3. Pawn to a5. And white must beware of b4. e4 buys a move. Queen f2 counterattacks, forking the rook and these pawns. Well, this pawn gives check. And so after rook e2, queen takes pawn check, buys a move. Rook d2 blocks the check, and now bishop to g6 retreats the bishop to safety and renews the threat of pawn to b4. So white plays b4, b4, black can play b4. Oh yeah. A takes b4, A takes oh, it means to sing? All right, so knight to d1. Queen takes pawn. That threatens checkmate here. Hello, it's Riser. Wafer says wrapping. Bishop to b2 prevents queen to b1 mate. Queen f4 check. Karamali has followed. Rook to d2. Queen f5, renewing the checkmate threat, but now from the 5th rank instead of the 4th, which means he's forking b1 and the pawn on c5. White again defends with rook b2, but now queen takes pawn check, king to d2, queen to d4 check, king back to c1, bishop h5, threatening queen takes knight checkmate, knight to f2, queen c3 check, rook c2, queen a1 check, king d2, and pawn to b3, and white resigned. Let's put this into the chess engine and see one of many possible continuations. Connected Dal X has followed. Thank you. Wow. More of this insta move kind of nonsense. Oh my goodness. All right. Finally should be getting somewhere here. And magic square checkmate. Finally, the last game I have to show tonight was played in, where was this game played? I believe it was played in Kharkov, which is in Ukraine. It was the Soviet Chess Championship played in December 1967. Somebody look that up and confirm that that was Kharkov, Ukraine, where that was played. Soviet Chess Championship, USSR Championship, December 1967. I believe that was played at Kharkov, Ukraine. As we did with the other two games, we will start this game by telling you what the final numbers ended up being. For white, 90.66 accuracy. For black, 90.35 accuracy. Best move rate for white, 41.2%. And for black, 39.4%. So all three games that we show tonight, both players were plus 90 accuracy. 2 out of the 3 games, both players were plus 50% best move. We start with D4, knight F6, the Indian game. C4, E6, the East Indian defense. Knight F3 is the anti-Nimzo Indian variation, but after D5, we transpose to the Queen's Gambit declined. Knight C3 is the 3 knights variation, and if you wonder why it's called the 3 knights variation, well, to be honest, I haven't got a clue. C5 is the semi-Tarrasch defense. Pawn takes D5 is the main line. Knight takes D5. E4, the exchange variation. Hello, chess dude guy. Knight takes C3, pawn takes C3, pawn takes D4, pawn takes D4. White establishing the ideal pawn center. I have some videos over on my YouTube channel that talk about the ideal pawn center. You'll find them in the Scholastic chess lesson video playlist. Bishop B4 check. Bishop D2, breaking the check. Bishop takes the bishop, check again, and queen takes the bishop. Kingside castles. Bishop to C4. Knight to C6. Kingside castles. And B6 is the final move played from the ECO. Zaitsev departs from the ECO with Queen E3. The ECO move is Queen's Rook to D1. That's volume D, section 41 of your encyclopedia. Calls for Rook A to D1. And the most common line is Bishop to B7, King's Rook to E1. Note that we keep this pawn center intact as long as possible until we get all of our pieces activated and ready to launch into action. Most common move from black here is Rook C8. Well, Zaitsev departs from the ECO and plays Queen to E3, which brings us to a unique position that has not appeared in the annals of chess since that time. Nor had it appeared before that time. This is the only game in which we find this position. Anyway, the word means chess. Thank you for following. Hello, Lukagi 777. After bishop b7, queen's rook to d1, knight to a5, bishop to d3, rook to c8 finally, knight to g5, knight to c4, hits the queen, bishop takes the knight, rook takes the bishop. He played f4. Whether it would have been better to just go ahead and bring the knight back is debatable. Budino, greetings. White does enjoy quite a pawn front now, though, doesn't he? For Black's part, it may have been best to force the knight back from whence it came. f5. Now, d5 is really the way to keep the game level. He goes with f5. Pawn takes pawn and rook takes pawn. f6. And knight to f3. Now, the knight doesn't really have anywhere to go from there. I guess he could try here, but that would undefend this pawn, or I should say underdefend this pawn. But as you probably know, an undefended piece and an undefended piece are the same thing, just with der in the middle. This might be a rare case where putting the knight on the rim is not so dim, with other options of relocating the knight. Knight f3, rook to e8. Now, I feel that he should have played queen a4, which is a nice strong threat. And after rook e8, white should not give black a second bite at the a4 apple. He should play queen b3. Instead, he played the rook to f4, and black did not miss the second opportunity to play queen a4. Rook to f1. Queen takes pawn, and he's aiming to play rook to c2. But it would probably be best to play that move immediately, if not sooner. Queen takes pawn it is. Rook c2 being the aim of this move. Knight to h4. And rook c2 as predicted. Now getting his queen over here on the dark squares would be beneficial. Queen g3 with the threat of knight to f5, attacking the magic square. King h8. Perhaps queen c4 would be a better approach here. Because now knight f4, f5 would be answered by g6, and if knight to d6, creating this imaginary fork, Black counter forks. Queen c4 was not played. King h8 was. Before I go on, let me just address the chess.com audience and remind you that you have Morning Chess with Lele coming up in 5 minutes. 4-player chess with Chuck Moulton coming up in 65 minutes. Sisters time with the Belenkaya sisters coming up in 125 minutes. Once again, we want to thank chess.com for carrying us on their streamers showcase. All right, King h8 was played. By the way, if you're watching on chess.com, the program will roll over as long as I'm streaming. You need to hit the refresh button or open one of those other programs in a separate tab or window in order to catch them, which you can do. You can open another viewing window and watch Lele Koridze while I'm watching myself teach you guys about these games. All right, pawn to e5 was played here. Knight to f5 would still be worth a try, threatening the magic square mate. Wesley 44566 has followed. He did play pawn to e5 here. Queen to d5. Pawn takes pawn, pawn takes pawn. Rook to g4. And black is the one with the slight advantage. Until now, that is. Captain Blunderpants. Old Danky has followed. Big Tyke priming it up. Thank you, Big Tyke. If you're an Amazon Prime member, you can get Prime Gaming at no extra charge. Good night, T-Bo Baker. Prime Gaming, no extra charge. It's included in your Amazon Prime membership, but you do have to sign up for it. Go to Amazon.com, type Prime Gaming in the search bar. Follow the on-screen instructions, become an Amazon Prime Gaming member, and then you get to use that Prime Gaming membership once a month to subscribe free to the channel of your choice. And since there's no channel like this channel anywhere near this channel, this must be the channel. Subscribe here with Amazon Prime Gaming. Thank you, Big Tyke, who says it's very easy to do. It's so easy that even a blind caveman could do it. All right, rook to e4. What a blunder. Rook g8 was necessary to keep that game alive and to keep his advantage alive. Rook e4 was played. Captain Blunderpants reared his ugly head because now there's a forced mate available to white, beginning with Knight G6 check. Pawn takes knight. Queen H4 check. Seven check. And if king H6, queen F check, followed by checkmate, or if king this way, we do the same thing. It's just different. So blocking with the queen doesn't help. King G8, rook takes pawn check, king F8, queen takes pawn check, king E8, queen F8 check, king D7, rook F7 check, and here black resigned because his only real way to get out of check is to capture with the queen, and we're not even going to waste time recapturing that queen. We're going to give check with the rook, followed by checkmate. And I do apologize for such an early night. I am feeling like I'm about to fall over with dizziness. So I hope you enjoyed these games. Thank you, those who subbed tonight. We had 3 subs and 50 cheer bits. Grizzkill has followed. I am going to have to call it an early night, though, and get some rest. Thank you, Pat Serific. And let's see, who should we raid? Please stick around for the raid. Let's raid Chess Coach Net. Thank you for 100 cheer bits. Yeah, fresh air and water. Good advice. Now, I will be back tomorrow for the Arena Kings tournament, 10 a.m. Pacific time. Yeah, thanks for being here. Nighttime. Then Thursday at 8 p.m., the Today's Beginner program, where we feature a beginning concept / intermediate concept. And of course, Fisher Friday, 8 p.m. on Friday Pacific time. So I hope you'll make those. Until then, have a great day. 10 a.m. tomorrow for the Arena Kings Pacific time. Each and every week, the Arena Kings is held at 10 a.m. this season. All right, until then, have a great day and play some great chess. Bye now.
So look at these pieces, guys. Look at his pieces.
You're doing too much, man.
KingsBischop coming in hot with a party of 30. Thank you so much, KingsBischop, and welcome. Hello, hello, hello. What's up, KingsBischop?
Hello, hello, hello.
Thank you so much for the raid, KingsBischop. Do you get more points for a random take because they are close